that. Connection seems to be okay. Everything seems to be picked up. I think we're good to go. So, hi everyone. Welcome to another stream of Grey Ace Attorney. How's everyone doing? Everyone's alright? Today, we are continuing where we had left off last time. We are in the second part of the first trial for Hairbrain, and we are about to meet the witnesses of the trial. They apparently saw something, I don't know what, but we'll see what they have to say about it. We're going to see how much we can get done. Hopefully we can get at least one more part done, depending on how long it is. If not two. Just as a heads up, there's something downloading from someone else's computer, so we may have some hiccups during stream. I don't know if it's going to be a huge hiccup, like, you know, it may be choppy or something, but for the moment, it seems fine. Regardless, let us switch over to the game and just get straight into it, shall we? See what we can get up to. If I can find the game. There it is. Let's hope the sound actually gets picked up this time. Hey, Refertron. You wouldn't get a notification. I literally just started. Alright, sound is being picked up, showing up on there. The chat disconnected for a brief second there. That was a bit worrying. Okay. Everything seems fine. Need to refresh restream as usual. Come on. Let's close this. Restream. Come on. I'll go to the freaking YouTube page then. I can see it there. It's just not showing up on Restream for some reason. Show up on there. I guess it's just Restream being a pain in the butt. Anyway, let's go. Continue. Yes. The 23rd of October, 10:44 a.m. Dependence Antechamber. Mr. Naruhodo. What on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis. You've been picking holes in it from the start. Sorry about that. But you promised me. You said you'd prove that dratted explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. All you've done so far is try to undermine me. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I was just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh! Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster. Not just as a scientist, but as a human being. A bean! Well, that might be a little over the top. And while you were on the subject, what about Barak? He's being awful. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait. He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore. Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Yes? What? The machine or the demonstration you prepared. What's wrong with my voice? They were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans with the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with a firm belief that the science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. I do not, because it does not work, and it should not work, because otherwise this whole universe is completely bonkers and stupid. Alright, Professor, I understand. Counsel defendant. The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session. Again. Make your way into the courtroom, please, I guess. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Scholes was adamant. A practical implementation such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? If it could not be done, how was it done? The 23rd of October, 11 a.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As it is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Backseat, I believe these witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes? Indeed, they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimonies we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Well, it'll be proven that they can't be in the past. Perfect. A detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed the act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. What the hell? What's this small child doing here? And Gina? Witnesses, state your name and occupation for the court to hear. He has a fire in his hat. My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Experimento stage. Oh, he's the Italian, okay. Oh, yeah, German. Yeah. My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ormstein. I have come to see the Great Exhibition all the way from the home in Bohemia. I am very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Erlock Sholmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got up in one of the balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. I feel like I'm doing his voice weird. I think my throat's acting up. It has been for a few days, actually. Oh, you make it to sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you? 60 feet. About 80 meters, then.
Thank you for your introductions. Now you'll give your informal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you at a vantage point from above the stage.
The view from 60 feet up.
It was an incident, terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged.
There's this huge bang from the stage, and the next second, another bang in the sky beside us.
And amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. I'm sort of going into Russian instead of German. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. Mamma mia. Spaghetti meatballs.
I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went in after it crashed near the tower. Or into the tower.
A most extraordinary collective account, I must say.
Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions?
More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around. Here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower.
I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide.
The amount of balloons that the guy is going to be ending up dropping onto the ceiling is probably going to be too high, isn't it? And then the entire building floats.
I still got some money, lots of money.
And precisely who is this curious immigrant?
I'm told he's a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal in unnoticed into the great exhibition.
Yeah, I'm here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
We will have to benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that?
When I remove this mask, this is what I look like.
Oh, yes, I see. A delightful place, I'm sure.
It's a bit weird to say that to a child, but sure.
Yeah, everybody says so.
Great disguise, then. But the point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts of the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated.
Like the helium balloon carbine, yeah. Are those helium balloons? I told you not to bring any helium balloons into the car.
And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the Crystal Tower where the victim fell.
No thanks, Amelius. Thanks for joining, but I'm good, thanks. Especially when I'm streaming right now. Also, it's one of the rules, please don't promote yourself inside my chat.
Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Asman on the stage could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, Counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. So the defense's cross-examination now, please.
Yes, my lord.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand.
Si, all 3 of them, my bellissima Bambini. They are very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? That's more than my annual stipend.
Stipend? That's not a word.
£30 a month. That is my pocket money.
Royals have all the luck.
I got up there for free, didn't I? I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know.
Detectives have all the luck.
If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though?
Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other.
The operators of the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator remaining in a particular area.
See, and the zone above a public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me.
Thank you, witness. I think the court has clear picture of the arrangement for balloon rides at the exhibition.
He's very poor unless you're gumshoe.
Perhaps we could hear more about what you actually witnessed at the incident.
Right, I can fill you in there, my lord.
Oh, I'm clicking on the box, not the thing. Whoops.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air?
Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto, being a lawyer's a mug's a game. You should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well.
Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything. We saw everything. Because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing onto the stage and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was this big, massive bang at the cage disappeared. That just like that.
You're describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what to make of it. But then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked around and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. And there was nothing there before. What do you want, child?
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet something for the first time, you should always use your full name. Yes, what was it again? Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigmund Ormenstein.
Just the 4 names, then. The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps?
Oi, get me right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade. I'm making her German now.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment?
That is what I saw.
Oh, that is not what I saw. Oh?
Yeah. There was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloons, that is true. But I'm sure... Which is what I said, innit? 1 minute there was nothing there and there was a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Well, just before the second explosion happened to our balloon, I'd clearly witnessed a green balloon flying into the sky. A green balloon? Eh? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it. And you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it's a lie. That is not allowed. Is it playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I ask you to amend your testimony. In the interest of cordial marital relationships between Great Britain and Bohemia. Is Bohemia even a place anymore? It was not the sky that exploded, it was a green balloon that next was 2 hours at the time. Now, I wouldn't say it would count as an objection, but it would be a piece of substantiating evidence, which is this.
Objection!
Yeah, I just wanted to check. Somehow with the evidence, it is your task, counsel, to explain the somehows to the court, not the other way around. Ah! It just seems to jar, though, don't you think? What I think is that this whole exchange has been extremely jarring, yes, and I also don't speak like normal. Perhaps I need to reconsider this.
Hold it!
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that? Of course I'm sure. I'm a proud Bohemian Prince. All these questions are making me boring. I think you mean bored. Ugh, English is so very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far principi- Okay, get out of here. Ragazzo, it is a very wrong to lie. Lie? The flying balloons never explode. For the same reason the planets never explode. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical. If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. You're an idiot. There you go. Bohemian is now the Czech Republic. Ah! Madai! I'll have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them! But give me another one. Here you are, Your Highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. And now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Liu? No, I did not see the explosion myself, however.
Hold it!
Did you see that actually happen? No, in reality I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had been crashed. I suppose they're all his livelihood. But when I look into the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it, though. I saw it slam into the tower after all. I'm a detective now. Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade. That's what I like to hear. She gets her jimmies rustled every time that gets her say her name. She's like, oh, Inspector, yeah.
Hold it!
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away? Eh? Use your head, Otto. How could it have been me?
I was up in a balloon, weren't I? Right. So because I wasn't available, it was the boss who had to leg over there. He was getting involved, getting shoved and kicked all over by the panicking spectators, and he's trying to seal off the area. Or scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing. Poor Inspector Gregson. So anyway, I couldn't see the stage that well because of all the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of me wits. Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is certain that the demonstration was genuine. But what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. Huge bang for the stage. There's a green balloon. No. God damn it. I'm trying to speed it so I can go through this. Right, what can I present here? I mean, this only shows 2 balloons.
Objection!
Nope. Something about that last statement seems odd. Would you care to mull over precisely what you found odd about it your return journey to Japan? These are very fast. I wouldn't be back to give the court an answer for about 4 months, though. Rest assured, we should be happy to carry proceedings forward in your absence, counsel. He sounds serious. I have to prove my worth before he really does send me back home. This just straight up looks like a crossbow. There's some sort of lever here. It is a crossbow. What's this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. Okay, well, I didn't know there was a button I needed to press. It's a folding crossbow. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. How far back do you pull the bowstring, man? If it goes past your ear, I think you're pulling it too far. In fact, if I had one of those, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyudo archery training. Well, good to know that I was right on this. It was a crossbow. I guess I could present it here because what he says sort of substantiates that this is part of a balloon.
Objection!
Mr. Lude, in your testimony, you said that all 3 of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. Sir, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. Or terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is? I think it may be a part of a balloon, a burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope? Pardon. Oh, that is a large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from the very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found in the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gott testified, a green balloon did indeed explode that day.
Eh? If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. No! If a balloon exploded that day, why didn't the man say so? Maybe everyone was aboard was killed. Why is that guy just throwing cards everywhere? Oh no, I've been spent 10 pounds experiments, how awful. Seems like to me those crash 50% of the time anyway.
Objection!
The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. The point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon, causing the balloon to explode. Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts.
This I cannot accept. Oh, why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar. The person died in a balloon incident.
There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victims were the sole fatality of that day.
That's all right, and I prove it. Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. It is not possible.
You're saying it's impossible? Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Aye.
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon.
I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up this issue about the phantom balloon I feel. Witness, you will give your supplementary testimony about the balloons you will operate.
I got so chuffle, like in my voice, that it ended up just becoming nonsense. Operating at the exhibition is what I meant to say. Grazie, my lord, grazie. This a cazzo, would that be finished? Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe. But you can't get away with the fact that a burnt up piece of cloth was found at the scene, can you? The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris that's from the explosion on the stage. This is a stupid ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
So you're asserting that is the balloon that this child saw was not one belonging to you?
Sì, exactamente. If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we'll fight back. Il vi voir. All at voir. Balloon, please. This guy's making a lot of money from this kid. What happened to All Out War? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that testimony and the evidence are contradictory here.
If the defense is unable to find fault with the witnesses' statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend.
The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes.
Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses.
Hold it!
You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Signor. I might not have noticed if it was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive?
I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons.
It would appear that no mistake has been made then.
Surely Mr. Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What? Me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. You can't even count up to 4? Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he had to go himself then. We might get to see them this stream. What does that mean?
Hold it!
It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I'd think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is that keeps the balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright. And a balloon flies because it flies. What else? You obviously don't know how it works. That must be Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. I see, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen. Lighter than air, but highly explosive. I do not permit smoking on the cigarettes in any of my balloons, and the magic gas do not like fire. Even a small spark or static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosions, explosion! I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day, I'm completely sure. But if you still say that what has happened, you must show me proof. Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was that one explosion? Or the one that exploded?
Hold it!
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking up stuff off the ground, mind me. Always works out way better. Diving up into people's pockets instead. Or diving. So you're just basically not doing your job. Okay. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is, though, the cage went crashing into the Crystal Tower, didn't it? So that's where most of the investigating was going on. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Cool, listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. Pardon? Well, you ain't got a badge, ain't ya? Like this one. I could arrest you with it if I wanted. I wouldn't put it past her. Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had around investigation.
Hold it!
There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the coves were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. A good job of the old contraction didn't keel over, eh? I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was a great panic after the incident occurred. Why'd I give him sass there? Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Like me swapping all his fish and chips, eh? The man's sole pleasure. None of these matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente.
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong? Si, signor. I do not have green balloons in my warehouse. And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be.
For the sake of argument, let us say there's a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question.
Why not?
There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you would agree.
You do believe it may have been from some earlier balloon incident that predates the exhibition? I see, exactamente. As the signor says, it is not from one of my balloons. Clearly, this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Master Gotts? Is Master Wilhelm Gottfried Sigmund Ormstein? It was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it all on Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have evidence, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is this evidence?
To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious!
What? I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower and the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot steel cellar, the balloon. And the instantaneous kinesis experiment? Did you take a picture of that? Yeah, one picture. Really? You did take one? But all I wanted was a bride in the balloon. I was not very interested in boring experiments. Never mind that. Can you show us the photograph? Of course. If then you will see. You will see that I'm not lying. That I really did see a green balloon. Whoa. Well, I see you're all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think a shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that as a green balloon is on his photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera. Wah! How do you do that kind of wah? Like, wah! Wah! That is one very bohemian sounding cry. Wah! Wah!
Very, very well. The court will accept the photograph as evidence.
The photograph of the balloon has been sent to the court record. Gotts looks like the small man from Resident Evil 4. Oh, God. Now that you've said that, I can't unsee that. But welcome, Francisca. It's not my fault. It is the fault of the person who made the camera. Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph? Well, it was on the day of the big explosion. You don't say. When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang. And a hot wind rushed over my face. That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Oh well, if you ask me, this a black and white photograph that changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you've picked up. As I thought, Mr. Liu's testimony doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon. But Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still,
This inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Where is it? I mean, you can see that the guy's in there. You can see the guy working there. You can see that this is not even pointing up straight. It's pointing, you know, where it's supposed to be going. But there's a shot here, which is probably from the crossbow. But there's also no one in the balloon. I guess I could present it here. Oh, okay, I guess I would present this here. Yeah, because there's no one inside it.
Objection!
Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers.
My goodness, you're right. But surely the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise.
A seer, there'd be for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with the passengers. Which tells us that the picture balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing, niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing.
The competition trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because there was experimental that went wrong at the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below. Right, so them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of balloon raining down. But because no one was in it, they didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. This court has sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded.
Really? Have we really got the truth or got to the truth yet? No. I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it?
Objection!
Literally, the main thing that we can see is this giant light that's coming towards the balloon. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more vital clue. Oh, what's that? A vital clue?
Objection!
we're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion.
We can reasonably assume that the picture balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was not my fault.
Evidently, because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly exploded, explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened.
What?
It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of the alleged clue to the photograph in court.
Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. And what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way, that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is this. Now, do I have to do it on the tip, or...
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice that there's a bright white line and it appears to be pointed directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on film.
I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort.
If you look with the magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of the bright line really is.
Goodness, what's that? Undeniably some sort of light, yes.
Oh, golly. Do you think it might be a lightning? Oh, but it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire.
About a fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow.
Indeed. Even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of sort. My word! Are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how exactly what did happen.
What evidence?
If such evidence exists, counsel, then for the goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to have headed directly for the balloon?
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene.
Good lord, is that a crossbow?
An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon.
Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately...
Blimey, you're right. Oh, that's a weird voice. That streak of light in the photograph looks like an arrow, doesn't it? Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was an act of sabotage. Very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside.
No.
Order! Counsel, this is extraordinary supposition.
If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question.
The noise of the discharge, of course.
That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile would be fired at the balloon silently. Well, yeah, if you had a shotgun off in the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implication of what you're saying, Manipini's friend?
If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have been exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued... What? Wait a minute. What are you really trying to say here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up from the sky after all? Or what?
My goodness me!
Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along.
What? Did I just hear you correctly, Counsel?
There's no going back now. The horse is bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. That makes barely any sense, but sure. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible. That's what I've described as the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried on that day.
This is... Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous, what you described as no science experiment. It's child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said the experiment was a scientific impossibility, in which case this is the only way to explain what happened that day. And in any case, the victim's body was inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3. This is why we have a magician. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman. And having this other man appear on the stage to front the show as a body double. Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when they exploded. No one would ever embark on such a risky venture.
Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon's gas could have been would very much depend on the mixture ratio.
Juror number 4.
Flying balloons are already filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium on its own does not explode, but by controlling the gas mixture, the explosive force can be altered.
The mixture ratio? You're not a scientist. You don't know these things, Van Zeeks. It's fine.
Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavailable. But not to such an extent as to render the whole obscene charade impossible.
So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of this experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception, to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with.
Yeah.
In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant who was on stage in full view of the entire time.
Ah.
Objection. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zeeks can't credibly maintain the professor's harebrain as a suspect now. And then he comes on and is like, oh, actually, no, you're wrong. There we go.
Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Professor?
But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please.
Sorry? What is all this about, Mr. Harebrain?
I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
What are you doing? It's because he doesn't want to be proven wrong, so he's just taking the blame.
Order, order, order! Defendant, explain this sudden confession.
Objection.
Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about?
It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was a trick, an elaborate prank, and where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would be all over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you'll just let me, I can prove.
Barrett!
Yes.
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure the special dispensation of scientific act is adhered to and protect my creation.
He takes a drink, I take a drink.
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollow chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What?
And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation Act for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machine involved in order to establish the truth.
Okay, do that then. Who cares?
However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis is preserved.
I don't mean as in I don't drink at all. I mean, when he drinks, I take a drink regardless of what I've already done. I'm not going to, dehydrate myself because of this man.
Well, counsel, what is the defense's position on this matter?
That was such a choff of words there.
The confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved.
What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust.
You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Hurry up and tell me!
Just gonna save, because I know what I will choose, because it's the obvious choice. But whether it will actually let me do that choice is another thing entirely.
Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Okay, man, I get it. You hate the Japanese, but can you stop it? You're going a bit overboard.
Mr. Naruto!
There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts the defendant instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... Is there no real choice for me then? No, I can't say it. My client places faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. Who's even saying this? It's what can I protect? Oh, hi! Where'd you come from? Okay, welcome back, I guess. Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susanoo-san. But what are you... Hey,
You've just come back. My first entire takedown in 6 months. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naohiro. For now, you must concentrate on the task at hand. What is working out now? Not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Hairbrain.
Yes.
Yesterday, you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth, too.
Yes, of course.
And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself, too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we most both pursue now.
Oh, my leg!
So, you've finally opened your eyes.
What?
And as for you...
You know, it's kind of funny that in order for me to actually choose the option, I have to get Susato here. I already knew that this was the option, and you're telling me I have to wait for my girlfriend to come back? Come on.
Albert, you can ignore this no longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say?
Burke.
Lord Van Zieks.
Gosh, I never heard him speak that way before. I've only come back.
The truth. There is one thing, something I remembered of relevance.
What?
On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow. I beg your pardon?
Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like?
Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, whiter than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me too, a monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify the man, you see. I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
What? He built the machine.
That's right, Mr. Asman introduced him to me a year ago.
Oh, my voice suddenly changed there.
He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber.
Why does that name sound familiar?
Enoch Drebber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination.
Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he?
I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money.
When the magicians are in need of money, I heard them resorting to these underhanded tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before.
The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. This Enoch Drebber for you.
Well then. Why is it always a magician that comes in and ruins things?
So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion.
Considering what we just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely.
Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to believe that machine could function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume.
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis.
Obviously, I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, that everything I've worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, all my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built? And the nature of Mr. Drebber?
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money.
When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all of the dials in exactly the way Mr. Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. And let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you know how consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Why do I have to say the whole word every single time? How can we just call it like Speedo or whatever?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry. It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Vanzeeks. My lord. The court will have newly been aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical.
Yes, Mr. Drebber.
Gather information about the man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena.
With pleasure, my lord.
And now, counsel for the defense.
Yes, my lord.
Good work.
It is the first time he says good work, and he's smiling like a grandpa.
When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing, and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of all the crime with which he presently stands accused.
I understand.
Good. In that case, this court is adjourned for until tomorrow morning.
Woo! Good job, everyone. And now we got to talk with Susato. The 23rd of October, 1:36 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes?
I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry.
Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean? About what he was even really constructing?
And naturally, that machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. Great Scott! And I had complete faith in it.
Alright, in that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands. So we must do as much as investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow.
Well, thank you for doing so much for me.
I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I arrived. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. You little bitch!
Iris, how could you? You betrayed my trust.
Well, did it work?
I was surprised, all right, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so very sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in future? Susie's train was late in London Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so we didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Oh, having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. I need you by my side at all times, Susato. Forever. Otherwise, I can't do anything. So, I'm, delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest? Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends over this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait. Iris shoots me, and then Susato kisses him. Okay, I see how it is. Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. A darker turn. Because then she was killed, because I did it. To be continued, yay! That was actually a lot longer than I thought it would be. That was like an hour and 30 minutes. Yes, I would like to save. Let me have a look. Yeah, almost an hour and 20 minutes. I guess we can go a bit longer then. The 23rd of October, 2:41 p.m. Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. Oh, this room. It's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest, though. And it's been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to stay so familiar. I didn't know when you might return, and I wanted everything to be as you'd left it. But it has been some 6 months, it's true. So your father is all right, Susie. What happened? My father? Yes, Professor Mikotoba. I mean, it was half a year ago, but that's why you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram you received saying he'd fallen ill with a very high fever or some unknown reason. That's right. So I was surprised to learn that you'd be coming back so soon. Surprised but happy. I think I wrote about it in my letter to you, that it was all a trick. My father is in fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that. Well, we're all delighted to have you back. It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. It's because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium. An International Forensic... That's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned. Anyway, I've arrived safe and sound, and all that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh. You must tell us everything that happened while you were back in Japan. Yes, of course, I shall. And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you-know-who. About Kazuma. I know. I'll tell you all that I can. Good. Tell me everything. At least get through the lab part. There's a lab? Okay. I'll try to. When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I'd never be allowed to return to Britain. But curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, the father's mood changed entirely. The awful trial? Oh, yes. For the murder of Giselle Brett, and you had to dress up as a man. Ooh, you dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? I just said that, yes! Oh, well, yes, since women are forbidden in the courtroom, I had no choice. Wow, amazing. I wish I'd seen it. Don't you, Runo? Yes, I suppose so. I want to play at being a lawyer now. I would wear a false mustache, maybe. I don't think any mustache would hide the fact that you're just 10 years old, Iris. Maybe some stilts? There's something else I've been wanting to ask you, Miss Tsurado. It's about the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter it was something to do with the convex loot we found at Mr. Natsumi's lodgings. That's right. The very large dog collar we found with the bee emblem on it. It seems Mr. Natsumi's included a drawing of the collar in the report he submitted about his time in Britain. I understand that when Father saw the report, he turned as white as a sheet. Why would that be, then? Father came to Britain himself, of course, to study. That was some time ago now, but he stayed for 6 years. 6 years? Wow. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But if he refuses to tell me what it was, then I intend to find the answers for myself. And I've decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, Susie. Finally, you can tell me everything. That's a very meaningful look Susato-san's giving Iris there. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend. Yes, and from Japan, my father and Judge Jigoku, yay, have been invited. It's something of an honor, I believe. Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine in our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? A judge, did you say? Yes, His Excellency Judge Seishiro Jigoku. You met him, Mr. Naruto. Last year, in the Supreme Court. You can't possibly have forgotten. That terrible trial of yours where you were accused of murder. Ah, yes, I try to think of that as positive turning as point in my life these days. Well, it was Judge Jigoku who had presided over that trial. If I'm perfectly honest, I'd be happy never to see that man's face again in my life. Oh, well, anyway, as my father was invited to the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and in the end he agreed to me going on ahead. Yes, about the symposium. It seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. And he's probably going to be in the next case or something. It's obviously very important. I believe it is, yes. As I understand it, Lord Strongheart organised the entire event himself. I think he's hoping that by achieving some exceptional results, he'll get the job of the Attorney General, the most senior position in the British justice system. He's hoping to use his power to create the world's finest policing institution. He didn't do a good enough job, though. And that's what Father said, anyway. Apparently, it's Lord Strongheart's life and ambition. Does Professor Mikotoba know Lord Strongheart personally, then, I wonder? Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a speech all about this very subject only yesterday. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really live into much of it. How trying for you. Giselle Brett. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongfully accused of a crime I didn't commit. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, Giselle Brett. That's the name I won't forget for as long as I live. That's not you speaking, that's me. The extraordinary thing is, though, it seems it's a name we should all forget. Sorry? Since the incident, our government's intelligence services have been investigating Miss Brett. But it turns out that an Englishwoman by the name of Giselle Brett didn't actually exist. Didn't exist? But how can that be? It was a pseudonym. Her real name was Shin. And she wasn't a visiting student either. That was a front. A front? Who? Who on earth was she then? Miss A. Shin. Is it supposed to be like Ashin? Or is it just like... We don't know her first name yet. We just know that she has shins. Her name is literally all our intelligence services have been able to ascertain about her. Nobody knows why or even how she came to be in Japan. It's a complete mystery. But that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. What could have the woman been up to? I'm afraid I don't really know. The only thing we can be sure of is that she had some business in our country that we don't yet understand. And now she's been killed, while all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered. I'm afraid so. Ei Shin. Who on earth was she? And why do I feel as though I've heard that name before somewhere? I don't know. I don't remember that. After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange. I know the truth. I had you anyone on. Is that visiting student's fate? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. Whoa. They don't know about the guy that never made it into England. Then he died on the time ship. And then he'll never. Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at the time. But later on, I visited the man in prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma-sama. And what did you learn? After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been unladen at the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of the consulate staff there. Should have been? Well, it turns out that his body never arrived. It just disappeared. What? Kazuma's body vanished? Our government tried to cover the fact up, it seems. They erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown. Except Kazuma-sama isn't there. Did Professor Mikotoba know about this? Did he eat him? Are everyone cannibals and we just didn't know? Yes, it would seem that he did. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma-sama's body as we speak. I just don't believe it. But what if this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? The Kazuma mystery. Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on the SS Buria were definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Could it be that he's actually still alive? Stop it, Mr. Naruhodo. It's too much to bear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Just thinking about the possibility pains me. So very much. Because if he's alive, that means he was a liar. And he pretended to die. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. When Kazuma-sama was discovered, Mr. Sholmes was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remember it clearly. You're right. So if Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would mean that Mr. Sholmes had lied to us. But there's no reason why he would possibly have done such a thing. Actually, there are plenty of reasons. Maybe he's undercover. Maybe he's doing a serious case. I knew all of this was going to happen from the very start. Because it was so obvious. It's the simple story of, or like, plot of that. I called it. I fucking called it. Again. I suppose that's true, yes. The idea that he might still be alive somewhere. It wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it. Because if it turned out not to be true, then I'd be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. I'm terrified of what that might do to me. Oh, Mr. Zaro. What about me? I'm also important. I know she's given the idea the thought it deserves. It's Cesaro-san we're talking about after all. So I probably shouldn't push it now. Oh, seeing as you're back here, I'm going to present some stuff for you. You're still taking good care of that armband, I see. I'm so pleased. Well, yes, it feels like I wouldn't be me without it now, to be honest. Oh, bless me. Bless me, sorry. Oh dear, there seems to be a thread coming loose just there, look. I'd only be too happy to mend it to you for Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, thank you. I must have scraped it against something again. I'm always doing that. Then take better care of it, please. It was all going so well until I ruined it. About this paper, Mr. Zaro. Yes, it's all about the Great Exhibition. I've been dreaming about it, you know. I was sorry that you were going to miss it when you were called back in Japan. So was I. I felt desperately unlucky. But here I am, back in London while it's underway. It's a dream come true. Perhaps you're not as unlucky as you thought then. And once we've helped Professor Harebrain out of his terrible situation, we should all explore it together. And of course, we must invite the Professor's good friend, Lord Van Zieks, as well. Your luck might not stretch that far. This was used to shoot down the balloon, wasn't it? Yes, with a flaming arrow. It's quite a formidable weapon. I'm quite accomplished with a longbow myself, you know. No, really? If you were to balance an apple on your head, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm quite confident I could hit it from a good 50 meters away. Thank you for the bless you. Quite confident, you say? Does this apple necessarily have to be on my head? We don't trust you. Mr. Zaro, do you see this? You have such a great expectation in your eyes, Mr. Naruhodo, but I'm afraid nothing particularly useful comes to mind at all. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure what I was expecting, really. I was expecting her to solve everything, I guess. Skip, 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 skip. Present the next. Look at this dead body. I'm like this to every game. In every game, I always show someone a dead body. Look at this screwdriver, isn't it bloody? Alright, well, that's everything. I currently cannot move, so there's something else here, I guess? Oh, hello. It must be about a year now. I wrote a really long story based on one of my father's old notes. It's about one of Hurley's greatest exploits. I called it The Hound of the Baskervilles. But then Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it. And put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. Maybe? You'd have to go back and check that, Baloroth. I think I did? Or at least I tried to. And put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. So nobody knows anything about it apart from Hurley and I. But for some reason, you knew the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Flashback. Oh, it sounds so exciting. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I should love to read it. And you wouldn't tell me how you came to know it. Yes, but I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? I think it's time. Oh! I'm only sorry I had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. Ooh, new music. It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of the manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study and I saw something on his writing desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English. It read, The Hound of the Baskervilles. What? My Baskerville story? Of course, I had no idea what that was at the time. But Father came in and...
Sodato, what are you doing?
Oh, Father.
Did you look at those papers?
No, I simply read the label, that's all.
Well, put it out of your mind.
Sorry?
Forget that you ever saw it, and certainly don't tell anybody else about this. Do you understand?
I've already forgotten the voice I did for him, so it doesn't matter. He's only here for a brief second anyway. But what was Iris's manuscript doing in Japan? I have no idea. But when I heard Iris mention the word Baskerville that day, the title just slipped out. I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Shelm's exploits. When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain, but he refused to answer my questions. And he barred me from going to bars, so I wouldn't be able to gather information from the bar. And there was no sign of the big box in his office. And that's really all I know about it. I have no doubt that Father was a very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still. I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm ready to start investigating if you are. I've committed every detail about the case to memory. And Iris has told me all about the disturbing happenings at the Waxwork Museum as well. So, you're fully abreast of the situation already, eh, Mr. Zato? I expected nothing less, to be honest. I would think our first port of call should be investigate this Mr. Drebber, the engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect the extraordinary trick. Yes, a conjurer of sorts, by the sounds of it. Well known in the fields of science and magic. And then we need to go and arrest him. Well, yes. He must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we really do need to find the man. Huh, it sounds like a case of tracking someone down. Which is a job for the police or a great detective. Are we supposed to guess who she might be thinking of? We don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think. Good idea. Well, best of luck then. Oh, you're not coming today? I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But let me know how later you got on, will you? No, I will tell you nothing anymore. You're relegated to a second character now. Suzato's back, the real character we need. That was a little abrupt. The pull of the herb market must be strong. New locations. All right. We got places to go. I guess I got to look around. Maybe there's something new on the board. 23rd of October, Show's Suite. This blackboard is where Iris scribbles down her latest ideas, isn't it? Let's see. Oh, she seems to have drawn a lot of little stick figures all lined up. Look! The cheap apples at the market, is that what all of them say? What? The little figures can speak? All of your questions would be answered if you'd only read this month's Rants magazine. So, I'm the only one who can't make any sense of this? There we go! I guess I could go here. Oh! Hello! 23rd of October, British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice Office. Oh, who's that standing beside Lord Strongheart? I wonder. I've never seen her before. It's his brother, or his sister, whatever, I don't know. Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result. Oh, you mean because of Professor Harebrain's experiment? Sham science being demonstrated at London's Great Exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish, and now politicians are scrabbling to respond. Lord Van Zeeks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving me an emergency briefing. Oh dear, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Ah, nice! Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time. It's scrap metal now, is it? Oh, wow, yeah, she is hot.
And she's so tall. There's too few tall women in these games. I'm glad we've got another. I don't know what kind of character you are yet, but you seem kind of medical inclined, so I might give you like a sort of until later then Strongheart.
Yes, thank you.
Who is that?
That was Dr. Courtney Seath. Or is that she? Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. She's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. She was just delivering her report about the victim, in fact.
Oh, I see. About Mr. Asman.
Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly.
Oh, excuse me.
You can find her in the forensics laboratory.
Ah, right.
Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time.
It's not... So he's not running quite so spectacularly late anymore. Alright, well, I guess we'll speak to you. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before?
The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now, unofficially of course, to pave the way.
Goodness, a year ago?
At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly.
What do you mean?
For too long, these scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see it to it personally. By creating the finest police force the world has ever known to protect our honor and our future.
Look at those eyes. He means every word.
Dr. Scythe. I guess I'll just call her Scythe then. Dr. Scythe is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensics division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. And my wife. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba.
Oh, yes, my lord.
Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan.
Yes, that's right. I understand that he will arrive at the beginning of next month. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikotoba, I mean?
It was many years ago now, but yes. I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well.
Ah.
If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student.
It was the year I was born. So, yes, 16 years ago, in fact. He was absent for most of my life. For 6 years!
Mikotoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jigoku accompanied him as a young promising judge. What the hell is this word? The punctiliousness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way.
I didn't think that you were until now.
Dr. Mikotoba studied forensics at one of the London's large hospitals. St. Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Scythe was also there, then, as it happens.
Then Dr. Scythe knows my father, does she?
She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt that their paths crossed regularly. But I have no doubt that they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was there studying his subject for some 6 years in total.
6 years? That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years. Oh, okay.
So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years? What a loser. It was a rather turbulent time at home. How do you remember that? Like, most of those years, you wouldn't have a memory of anything. Like, at most, you would remember everything after maybe 5 years old? Oh. Perhaps Father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why? I was a boring child. I wasn't loved. Well, clearly something was going on at the time. I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as the Professor, who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right? Your Japanese are a thorough lot. You have done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother Clint Van Zieks was murdered, it was just after young Barrack had graduated from the University of London and became a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who had managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing, rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that whatever Barrack Van Zieks went, the ghost of his dead brother was far behind. Oh my word. So Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper. It's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles. Okay. Oh, yes, Lord Strongheart. Go ahead. It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains, if you're possible. Are you well versed in science, then? Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legally preventing investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Scythe's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking around at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing. And I'll be able to see it too. Your time is up. You will have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls. We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you were so busy, Mr. Lord. Mr. Lord? My lord? I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium, you understand. Bye. All right. To the prison. Beep, beep. Oh, what is he doing? He's gone mad. Cell 11. What's he doing? He's... Oh my, the whole wall is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who's this young lady? My name is Susato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. It makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. Are you an apology too, Professor? I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in this court this morning. Oh, no. No. The whole thing, miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Harebrain, what have you been working on in your cell? Oh, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was just all I had in hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass Metal Gear? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? No, actually. This is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How was I diddled and fiddled? By Albert Harebrain. You're gonna have to change that title, buddy. I found I could represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers and oppositions of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took from the kinesis machine, you see? So it's going to be a new special publication for next month, part 1, An Odd Birth, An Odd Bumblebee. He already has a book for it? It's so tiny. You can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. By Asmund and by that aloof Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Everything I believed in has turned on its head. My research, my Mr. Asmund, the kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry if it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's all not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end, there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in court this morning, I realized something. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you're aware of it or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame lies with me. Oh, Professor. This guy's voice is hard to do, like, geez. He believed in me this morning, you know, Barrack did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Barrack wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he's genuinely believed it. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take up the prosecution in my trial, I mean. Woo! After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not even lawyers. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, it was anyone other than Barrack. I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. In that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Barrack insisted that it was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul. But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have been some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Mr. Asmund, do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? I'm sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced me as a wealthy and financier, or introduced himself. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all of humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused, he was so empathetic. But in reality, he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. As the machine was essentially a set direction for some strange magic, it probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. But the scale of it, it wasn't just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try and earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool. It's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. And that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Asman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Mr. Enoch Drebber. And we shall kill him, too. Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Asman first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory, my place of residence. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the kinesis machine. But at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist? Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question of the man's genuine scientist. It's generally apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceives you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. And there are no more clues you can give us about his whereabouts? I'm sorry. We only ever discussed the kinesis machine, nothing else. Huh. Although, just once. I did visit his workshop. What workshop? Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine. Why didn't you mention this before? Enoch Drebber's workshop. There's every chance that we might find the man there. So you've been to Drebber's place of work then? Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place, plenty of room to construct a kinesis machine, you see. Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Drebber there. Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure. As in, I'm sure you're not gonna want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry. I was more than half expecting that. You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there. He blindfolded you? He wasn't taking any chances then. The place was incredible. The pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best. A special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the road should forget their secret formula and use that instead. Oh, what do you think, Mr. Sato? Ode a machine for your next birthday? I never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor. You don't have a business card for Mr. Drebber, for example. The man was clearly very cautious, Mr. Sato. I'm sure he would never... Yes, I do. You gave me a business card once. It was right here. Look. What? Let me see that. Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you? Enoch Drebber, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. No. Oh well, can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Drebber's card has been entered to the court record. Yay! Let's have a look at our stuff. Enoch Drebber. A money sign and a plus sign. Oh, what's this? This dark smudge here. I think perhaps it's machine oil. Yes, possibly. Professor Harebrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Drebber used, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Yes, that's right, but more importantly, it's more fragrant than the finest perfume, or fragrant. So excuse me a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all. Don't worry, I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount there. Woo! Maybe if we lick it, we'll be able to tell where it came from. I don't think there's anything that we can present to you other than, like, the A. Professor, do you recognize this? Oh, it's Andrew, my faithful friend. How have you been, Andrew? Are you alright? Nobody's mistreated you, have they? Don't worry, he's being very well looked after. I always rub him with the machine oil until he's gleaming. Right. And then, when I come to tighten a screw with him, He slips in my hand and I can't do it. It's a great age-old problem faced by driver files the world over, isn't it?
I really wouldn't know, I'm afraid. Professor Hairbrain, what do you make of this?
Oh yes, that's just what I needed to prove my hypothesis, isn't it?
No, it's nothing to do with your hypothesis, actually.
Then take it away. I don't want to be bothered with anything that doesn't assist my science.
All right, keep your abundant hair on.
All right. Well, if you've got nothing else to say, time to leave.
So we got the experimentation stage, mantis spells, and the forensic laboratory. We have...
Oh, it's just over 2 hours. We could end it there, but at least I'll go to the laboratory.
I will go to the laboratory just to calm chat down.
Oh, this is not a laboratory. This is a freaking morgue.
I believe this is it. Dr. Scythe's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose. It's probably chloroform or whatever. And there's plenty of... or formaldehyde, not chloroform. If it was chloroform, you'd be knocked out. And there's plenty to assault the eyes in here, too. It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a seasoned tourist you've become, Mrs. Zado. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Let's examine. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. These ones are labeled highly toxic. That's worrying, because there are also things there that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh, yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. Well, the doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. Nothing particular of note. Never mind the blood or the scalpels. A table and set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air? You'd either have to be of cast iron constitution, or have a real terrible sense of smell, or you have nose pliers, nose clips, you know? Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside of them. That looks like a liver, maybe? I suppose they're fruit liquors or something? Or the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home? Father had jars like that in the laboratory as well. I expect they're human organs in preserving solution, but probably as examples of some of a rare medical condition. Mr. Zado, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever. Oh, so as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they? Of course. There's a skull up here. Pestle and mortar, magnifying glass, or microscope. I suppose this is Dr. Scythe's desk. I wouldn't like not to work in a place like this. It's very tidy, though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work. The lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes. The chemical smell can't be good for you. And not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Well, yes, there are valid concerns, I suppose. I can't just cope with one-eyed Darumidol watching over me, but that's all. Look at this big, thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipments and supplies on a monthly basis, but... well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. 500? They must be working really hard on dissecting corpses.
I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances, and scalpel blades can be sharpened too. Maybe they're throwing them. It does seem a bit strange. You're right. 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all of them for? I didn't get a chance to look at the birds, or the skeleton, or this thing. What are you doing? Hello. Sorry, we had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so... So you thought you'd snoop around. That's acceptable to you people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want? Is she related to Van Zeeks? Because just the way that she's talking to me makes me think that. Is she like the sister of Van Zeeks? And she married off so she has a different name? Lord Strongheart told us, you see, that it was you who examined the victim's body? Mr. Asman's body, I mean. So we came to ask you about the findings on Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what your investigations revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately. She's straight up giving me Van Zeek's side. Like vibes. Options. Save. Alright, and that's where we'll stop. I think it's a great place to stop. We meet a new character. We get to ask her some more things. We got this really cool song that's playing right now. But this is where we will stop. We shall pick this up next week, so look forward to that. Woo! 2 hours. Alright, exit game. I did save, right? I'm going to save just in case. I straight up forgot if I already saved. Save again. The case knows my type too well. Yeah, pretty much. So yes, exit game. Or don't save because we already saved. Yes, I want to quit. Alright. We shall pick this up next week. It's been 2 hours. My throat is killing me. I need to take a break. Hopefully next time when we ping back, I'm able to give her a real voice. And then I'm ready for whoever comes up next. But yeah, we got some stuff done. We finished off the first part, or the last part of the trial, and now we're into the second part of the investigation. So look forward to next time when we look into that and seeing what else comes up and what we find out for that. But as for today, thank you all for watching. I hope everyone enjoyed. I know we didn't get to go as far as some people wanted me to go into the laboratory, but I need my break. But we'll have that for next time. So look forward to it. Tomorrow, I'll be back with more Death Stranding, so look forward to that. But for today, yeah, thanks for joining. Hope everyone enjoyed. As usual, if you have not already, like, follow, subscribe, bell notifications, all of that stuff, so you know when I next stream. And if you want to help support me, link to Patreon and tips. And if you do become a patron, you get named added to the patron list here, where I give you a shout-out at the end of every stream, like I do with Hiro Kuni, the Swordmaster 37, and Rafatron 2000. I thank you for the continued support. I greatly appreciate you all. And we go to a morgue and then start smelling the formaldehyde, because, you know, it smells nice. And then, you know, we pass out because it's too much. But, yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining today. Y'all take care. Have a nice rest of the day. I'll see you either tomorrow or I'll see you next week. Until then, y'all take care. Bye, everyone. Bye, Rafatron. Bye, Baloroth. Thanks for joining.